Assalamu alaikum, I'm Aisha and you're watching Samaa News. Here are today's headlines. Efforts by Middle Eastern allies to launch ceasefire talks between the United States and Iran have been rejected by the Trump administration. The war began 2 weeks ago with a large-scale US and Israeli air assault on Iranian targets. Meanwhile, Iranian officials say Tehran will not consider any ceasefire until US and Israeli strikes come to an end, despite mediation attempts by several countries. At least 15 people have been killed in a missile strike on a factory in the central Iranian city of Isfahan. According to the semi-official Fars news agency, workers were inside the facility, which produces heaters and refrigerators, when the strike hit. Iranian media blamed the attack on what it called the American-Israeli enemy, while the Israeli military has not yet commented on the incident. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz has praised US President Donald Trump following a strike on Iran's Kharg Oil Island. Katz said the confrontation with Iran is entering a decisive phase and vowed that operations would continue as long as necessary. He added that the Israeli Air Force is carrying out a new wave of strikes across Tehran and other parts of Iran. The US Central Command have said that the United States forces executed a large-scale precision strike on Kharg Island in Iran on Friday night. CENTCOM said US forces successfully struck more than 90 Iranian military targets on Kharg Island while preserving the oil infrastructure. The US military said the strike destroyed naval mine storage facilities, missile storage bunkers, and multiple other military sites. Hamas has called on Iran not to target neighbouring countries, while reaffirming Tehran's right to respond to recent US and Israeli attacks. In a statement, the Palestinian group expressed solidarity with Iran, but urged restraint to avoid widening the conflict. The remarks mark Hamas's first public comment on Iran's military response during the ongoing regional tensions. US President Donald Trump has claimed that the United States destroyed military targets on Iran's main oil hub of Kharg Island, threatening to strike its oil infrastructure if Iran continues attacks that have halted most ship traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. In a social media post, Trump wrote that the US military totally obliterated every military target on Kharg while leaving oil infrastructure intact. He wrote that should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, he would immediately reconsider this decision. US President Donald Trump says most aircraft targeted in an attack on a Saudi Arabian base suffered minimal damage. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said 4 of the 5 US tanker planes hit in the strike had virtually no damage and are already back in service. He added that the 5th aircraft sustained slightly more damage, but is expected to return to operations soon, while criticising media reports that suggested heavier losses. Meanwhile, a missile has struck a helipad inside the US Embassy compound in Baghdad. Footage shows a column of smoke rising over the embassy compound. There was no immediate comment from the US Embassy in Baghdad. On Friday, the embassy renewed its Level 4 security alert for Iraq, warning that Iran and Iran-aligned militia groups have previously carried out attacks against US citizens, interests and infrastructure, and may continue to target them. Iran has allowed some Indian vessels to sail through the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran's ambassador to India, Mohammad Fatali, confirmed a rare exception to the blockade that has disrupted global energy supplies. Fatali did not confirm the number of vessels that have been provided safe passage. He was speaking at broadcaster India Today's conclave in New Delhi. Since the United States and Israel launched a bombing campaign on Iran, Tehran has largely halted traffic through the strait, which runs past its coast and through which around 20% of global oil and seaborne liquefied natural gas is supplied. An explosion has damaged a Jewish school in Amsterdam in what the city's mayor described as a deliberate attack against the Jewish community. Mayor Femke Halsema said in a press release that the explosion at the school in an upscale residential neighbourhood on the south side of Amsterdam only caused limited damage, as police and firefighters arrived at the scene quickly. Security at synagogues and Jewish institutions in the Dutch capital had already been heightened after an overnight arson attack at a synagogue in the centre of Rotterdam. 3 members of Iran's women's national football team who had sought asylum in Australia have now withdrawn their requests. According to Iran's Fars news agency, 2 players and a member of the team's logistics staff have decided to return to Iran. The development comes after several members of the squad applied for asylum during the Women's Asian Cup being held in Australia. Russia has hammered Ukraine with missiles and drones overnight, killing at least 4 people and causing damage across 5 regions of the country. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the main target was energy infrastructure in the Kyiv region, adding that residential buildings, schools and businesses were also damaged. He said the Sumy, Kharkiv, Dnipro and Mykolaiv regions were also targeted in an attack that included around 430 drones and 68 missiles, most of which were downed by air defences. South Korea's military said North Korea has fired more than 10 ballistic missiles into the sea as the US and South Korean forces conducted military drills and US President Donald Trump renewed overtures towards Pyongyang for dialogue. Japan's Coast Guard said it had detected what could be a ballistic missile that fell into the sea. It appeared to have fallen outside Japan's exclusive economic zone. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said in a statement that the missiles were launched from an area near the capital Pyongyang towards the sea off the country's east coast. The US State Department has offered up to $10 million for information on Iran's new supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei, and several senior officials linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. A banner from the State Department's Rewards for Justice program lists figures including Ali Ashgar Hejazi and former Iranian official Ali Larijani. Other names include Senior Military Advisor Yahya Rahim Safavi, Interior Minister Eskandar Momeni, and Intelligence Minister Esmail Khatib. Pakistani security forces intercepted and brought down 2 rudimentary drones near Rawalpindi using electronic countermeasures. Security sources say the drones were downed at separate locations and no damage or casualties were reported. However, airspace around the capital was briefly disrupted as a precaution. The Pakistan Airports Authority later said flight operations at Islamabad International Airport are continuing normally, and reports of a full airspace closure were baseless. That's all for now. For more updates, visit www.samaa.tv. Thank you for watching Samaa News.